Hello everybody, I am Senior Airman Lisette Knably, and today I've got a treat for you. We've got a nice long presentation on aircraft forms. So for all you sitting at home, grab yourself a snack or something to drink because we're going to be here for a while. So the 0020-1 is the TO that you use to find all this information in. So if you ever have any questions or you want to look something up, the methods and procedures 0020-1 is your friend. The first thing we're going to talk about are the symbols. We have three main symbols that we use in aircraft forms. The first one being the red X. The red X shows that there's an unsafe condition which grounds the aircraft. It requires two signatures in order to be signed off, and it also requires a TO reference with the corrective action. Next, we have the red diagonal. The red diagonal shows that there is an unsatisfactory condition, but the aircraft can still fly. It requires one signature in the corrected by block. The 0020-1 does actually state, get this, that the red diagonal will be a straight line from the lower left to the upper right corner of the symbol block. So don't go and put these things in backwards because it's been explained and backwards would be wrong. The last symbol we have is the red dash. This shows that there is an unknown condition or that there is an inspection due. The aircraft can still fly, and this symbol only requires one signature in the inspected by block in order to be cleared. And in case you are ever writing up a discrepancy and you're not sure which of these symbols to use, there is a form called the MESL, M-E-S-L, that stands for Mission Essential System Listing, and it's used to judge symbol severity. And if you're still unsure, then you can just put your symbol at a red diagonal to be safe, and then go reference your pro soup. So next we're going to talk about clearing symbols. I'm going to go a little depth in this first one in case there are any of you out there who are new to these aircraft forms, right? So you have your discrepancy in your discrepancy box, and then you have the printed name of the individual who wrote up the discrepancy. That is your first initial, period, your last name, and then your man number in the appropriate box. You also have the date discovered at the top and your JCN at the top. And then at the very top line, you have the date that all the forms started at. So if you have to turn to a new page, that is the date that you put at the from, not the current today's date, but whatever date that is on page 1, that's what you use. And then you have the MDS for our aircraft, and you have the aircraft serial number, and then you have what page this is in the forms. Never put the ending page number until the forms are completely all closed out, and that's something the crew chiefs usually do. So clearing a red X, you're going to put your corrective action in your corrective action block, and it also needs to have a TO reference like we said earlier. Then whoever did the maintenance is going to put their signature in the corrected by block, and that would be in cursive. And then the red X qualified individual will inspect the work and put their signature in the inspected by block. And then that same red X qualified person will put the first initial of their last name, that would be the R, over the symbol in order to clear the job. Next, we're going to talk about clearing a red X inspection. So this one is a little different because it only requires one signature in order to be cleared. So like before, you will provide your corrective action and a TO reference there. And then you put your minimal signature in the inspected by. Also, for write-ups where you have some sort of note in the discrepancy, when you're closing it out, you have to draw a line through that note so that when someone comes by earlier, they can see, okay, the note is no longer applicable, I can operate whatever this warning tag was on. So you cross that out, and then put the first initial of your last name over that red X. Next, we have a red diagonal. So this one will be signed off by the individual who fixes the discrepancy. Like before, you're going to have your corrective action. No TO is required this time. signature in the corrected by block, and then your initial over the symbol. Next, we have how to clear a red dash. So this is an inspection. So what you're going to do is put that the ops check was complied with here, and then sign in the inspected by block, and then you're going to put your initial over the symbol. And lastly, we have a cannot duplicate right off. So with cannot duplicates, you want to try as hard as you can to get that discrepancy to pop back up, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. So this is what you would do. You put what you did, try to be very thorough, and then you give your TO reference that you used for the ops check, and then only a CND certified individual can sign this off. And they would sign the appropriate block that the symbol is for. So since this is a diagonal, we're going to put that signature in the corrected by, and then initial over the signature. Next, we're going to talk about how to change symbols. The first one we have is upgrading a red diagonal to an X. This is something that comes in handy a lot because usually jobs are written up as diagonals, and in order to fix them, you need to remove parts from the aircraft. And whenever you remove a part from the aircraft, that's an X condition. So upgrading a diagonal to an X is something that happens a lot. In order to do that, what you're going to do is draw a line through the name of the person who made the entry, and then put your own name and employee number above the lined out information. And then you're going to draw another straight diagonal red line going the opposite way to make that diagonal look like an X, because that just makes sense. So that's bada bing, bada boom, done. Also, whenever you do upgrade a symbol or make an X in the forms especially, you want to go and take a look at the 781H in the status today block. That is this one right here that is circled. These blocks record the current highest symbol of the aircraft status, so you want to make sure that that is current and correct, especially if you're the one changing the highest symbol. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that later. Next is how to upgrade a red dash to a red X. So you're going to close out the original because you can't draw a line in any way to make a dash look like an X. That's just not how it works. So you're going to close out the original with the verbiage symbol upgraded to a red X. And then you're going to reference the location where that next write-up is. You're going to sign the inspected by block because that's what you would sign for a dash. And symbol over, initial over the dash. And then next you're going to write up your X symbol. It's going to be the same JCN, the same date discovered, the same verbiage for the discrepancy, but it's going to be your own minimal signature. So sometimes when you're filling out aircraft forms, you make mistakes. I've done it before. It's no big deal. They're easy to fix. So we're going to go over how to fix a few of those errors. The first one is when you enter a symbol in error. So in this situation, we have a warning tag write-up, which those would be a red X condition, but the person put it in under a diagonal. So in order to record that it was an erroneous symbol and write it up as an X, this is what you would do. You're going to enter the statement in your corrective action, symbol entered in error, discrepancy, and correct symbol re-entered in, and then you're going to reference where you're writing it up. And then you're going to enter your minimum signature requirements as applicable for that original symbol. So here it's going to be corrected by, put your initial over that symbol, and then write up your discrepancy as you should have done. And next we're going to talk about how to fix a duplicate write-up. So sometimes when you're in the forms, someone doesn't notice that what they found wrong with the plane is already written up. So you get a duplicate write-up scenario, and this is how you close it out. You're going to keep the initial one open and then close out any duplicates after the initial with this verbiage: duplicate discrepancy, see forms dated from the date that the forms are, and then you're going to reference where that original is. Then you will enter your minimum signature in the corrected by block and initial over the symbol. And then interestingly enough, a red X duplicate discrepancy does not require a red X qualified individual since there's no actual maintenance action being done. But you still do want to have that TO reference, in which case you would reference the 0020-1 where it says that how to clear a duplicate write-up. So next we're going to talk about some different kinds of discrepancies that you want to write up, like separate ops checks, FOMs, change of shift. First, we're going to start with warning tags. So warning tags will always be Weeses or a new JCN, but typically they're Weeses off of the original write-up, and they're going to be under a red X condition. You're going to annotate the number of tags and a warning note. So we have 5 each warning tags installed. Note: do not apply external power, do not operate, and then you will reference the job that the tags are for. So we're going to say CJCN to the original job. And then you'll put your minimum signature, your JCN, and your date discovered. And then your work unit code for tags is always 04 tag. An FOM write-up. So FOMs are used when you have to remove pieces of equipment from the plane in order to facilitate other maintenance. If you have multiple panels or doors removed, you can put them all listed together in both the discrepancy, and then when you correct the action, you have to have them all listed again in the corrective action. So this is a little interesting here. If you have your FOM written up as a Wees to the original, you don't have to reference the original write-up in your discrepancy because that Wees already contains the original's JCN. But if your FOM was a separate JCN, like a new one, then you would have to annotate or refer to the original discrepancy. Writing up ops checks. So you want to ideally get your ops checks done after the maintenance so that you don't have to do this, but in the case that you don't have time for it, this is what you would do. You're going to, in the corrective action of your original discrepancy, write that the ops check is due. And then you also have to reference where the write-up is for that ops check. And then when you're making the write-up for the ops check, you have to have a TO that references where the ops check is to do. And then you're also going to reference the original write-up. So those two must reference each other. Also, a side note, it's a good idea not to make ops checks weeses off of the original write-up, because the way it works in Geo is that you have to clear any weeses from a job before you can clear the original job. And since ops checks are written up as dashes, the planes can fly with those, but the original write-up is an X, and planes cannot fly with X's. So it's better to be able to clear that X and have an ops check due than having to wait for an ops check before that X can get cleared. Next, we have change of shift write-ups. So this one, there are a lot of steps to it, and it's all for clarity's sake, because it does, when you change shifts, there's sometimes information that is lost. So it's good to be really clear. What you're going to do is you're going to create a new discrepancy documenting the reason the maintenance was stopped. And then you're going to sign off the completed steps referencing the original discrepancy. That awkward moment when something stops the Air Force. So we have here that steps 1 through 5 were complied with in accordance with your TO, and then they reference the original ops check due write-up. And then the next thing you're going to do is create a subsequent entry detailing the remaining steps needed, and you're going to also reference the original write-up. So here we have steps 6 through 18 not complied with, TO reference, and then they're referring to the original write-up there. Okay, next we're going to talk about how to transfer write-ups from the 781As to the Ks and vice versa. So when you're going from the A's to the K's, I'm just going to skip ahead and explain this. What you're going to do is mark the XF block and put a signature in the corrected by, and do not initial over that symbol. So then when you're writing it up in the 781Ks, you're going to have all that same information, the date discovered, the discrepancy, the symbol. That's it. That's really easy. And then when you're going from the Ks to the As, you're going to draw a straight line from the symbol block to the end of the date time block. Don't go any farther. And then you'll put your own man number in the employee number block, and you're going to transfer all that information into the 781A. The same JCN, the same date discovered, the same symbol, verbiage, and then you're going to put your own minimal signature down at the bottom. And just a side note, if that symbol in the 781K was a dash, you would have to make sure that that line you used to cross it out was either above or below the dash so that you can still see the red symbol. Okay guys, this is the 781H. This is what I was talking about earlier that we would get back to. We're just going to go over how to write up the symbols for the status today column. It's really not complicated at all. So it's going to show the latest entry will always be the most current serious condition for the plane. And you're going to use the next block to record a status change. So whether it goes from an X down to a dash, all you do is just annotate the dash in the next block. You don't do anything at all with that X. You just leave it there. If you see, here you can see how it works. If you see an initial, a black initial like that, that means that there are no discrepancies and no due inspections for the airplane, although that probably will never happen because airplanes always have something going on with them. Symbols will never be erased or initialed over. And like I said, if it's entered in error, you're just going to put the next symbol in the next block. So I hope you guys were paying attention really closely because it's time for a quiz. Here's a challenge. For every question you get wrong, do 5 push-ups. Haha. And that's it. Thank you for watching the presentation.